Hello again, I'm Bob Colt. We're continuing our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools, and Gary King is joining me today. Gary, you're on the Board of Education, and school boards throughout the state of Michigan have to make a lot of tough decisions. You wade through a lot of stuff right now. What are some of the things that the school board is processing and some of the tough decisions you have to make?
There's a number of things that we're looking at. Like a number of other school boards, budget is always top on our list. We anticipate having a shortfall in our budget again for this year, and so we have to look to see, what we can do to balance our budget. We're really looking strong this time at developing a marketing plan where we can do all that we can to keep our students in our district that live within the district. So budget's always, at this time of year and for the last probably 5 or 6 years, has always been top on our...
So you really need a proactive, progressive way to attract students and stop any retention or stop any reduction of students going to nearby school districts. You've got to be proactive on that.
That's correct, we do, and that's what we're striving to do. There's a lot of assets, there's a lot of great programs in the Charlotte School District, and we want to develop a marketing plan that'll really showcase those programs that we have and those things that we're doing in order to retain our students.
Because you do have a competitive edge compared to other surrounding school districts. A lot of different programs that you must be talking about at the board level that people may or may not know about that you can promote.
That's correct. We've got the Performing Arts Center. We're looking to expand the classes there and our partnership with the professional side of the Performing Arts Center. We've got the Aquatic Center and our swimming pool. We've got some great agricultural programs and some good technical programs. So we really do have a lot to offer. Yeah.
And so you're probably dealing with nearby school districts who, because Charlotte might be bigger, they're saying, well, we're small. And that's kind of how they pitch themselves. Here you're a larger district in a smaller community or surrounding communities, but you've got a lot to offer people. It's a different approach.
It is, and it's correct. Because we're larger, we can offer more programs, and we hope that they're better quality programs.
Yeah, and so as you're a board member and you look at budget issues, it would be difficult to make a huge cut without going out and actively getting more students in a way that you can. But you've got to be frustrated by state funding for education and the per pupil formulas and whether or not you're getting enough money.
Yeah, that's been a frustration for a number of years, and all the school board members are dealing with the same frustration. Often we don't know exactly what our budget's going to be or our state funding is going to be until like the 11th hour. So that is a frustration for all the members of the board and the administration.
Yeah, so if we just think through the process here, you'll be going into a new school year, and there's a count. You don't know exactly how many students you'll have, so you don't know how many teachers you'll need, and you don't know exactly how many schools and facilities. This is just a constant moving target for a board member, isn't it?
It is, and it's difficult to do a lot of long-term planning and establishing programs and maintaining programs. You're correct.
So why would any individual in their right mind seek a school board position that's unpaid and volunteer? Why do you do it?
I largely do it just to give back to the community, and I know that sounds like what everybody says, but my wife teaches 5th grade in the school system. I've served on a number of committees over the last 10 years, and it just seemed like a natural thing to do.
Yeah, and so a school board's kind of a different position. You get exposed to a lot of information. I think, the front lines in any school would be a teacher as well as the kids. But there's a lot of stuff that comes to the board. You probably spend a lot of time on small things, too, that come all the way up to the board that you have to think about. Not only just the big things, but student issues and other things that come to the board.
We do, but there really is not very many of those. Our administration is really good at handling the smaller things, and so a lot of those don't really raise to the school board level very often.
Yeah.
They do a good job of handling those.
The board works in committees too, don't they?
We do.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I currently serve on the HR committee, the Human Resource Committee, and I also serve on the Grounds and Physical Facilities Committee. And both of those committees I really enjoy working on, especially the Grounds and Physical Facilities, because we've been making a lot of improvements and a lot of changes, and we've had a lot of the facilities under construction and remodeling, and so it's been very enjoyable and interesting to watch that those those construction projects come about.
Well, how do you make a decision then about what schools to invest and how to judge the age of facilities? It seems like the administration does a pretty good job in keeping tabs on that, but you're the final decision maker on that stuff.
Sure, but as you indicated, they are good at doing that. The administration does a great job of bringing recommendations to the board, recommending, sharing information with us on the age of the facilities, the condition of the facilities, what needs to be remodeled, the wear and tear. And then, like every project, we have to identify those that we can fund, and then the rest of them we try to fund at a later time.
Yeah, and Charlotte's been pretty supportive of making sure that the facilities are in good shape in the school system.
They have. The community has been great at really passing a number of millages that have helped provide some additional funding to maintain the facilities in the schools.
Talk about the Human Resources Committee, because that deals with all the personnel issues, right?
It does, and it just, I don't know what more I can say about that one. It's just, we work with our superintendent, and we discuss some of the personnel issues that come to the board level, and she usually is seeking a recommendation from the board members, and we discuss that, and then she implements our recommendation.
Well, so why would anyone in any role want to work for a school system?
I think most of the people that work in the school system have a personality that they really enjoy kids and enjoy working with children and want to be part of education. It definitely isn't for the salary that they get, and most teachers put in a lot of extra time, and so they're just genuine about how much they love kids and want to assist and help and educate them.
Yeah. There are a lot of issues around why people would be involved or how to compensate school districts, and right now the formula is all about the number of students. Do you think that should change? Should the way that we fund schools be altered a little bit in the future?
I'm not sure I have a comment on that. The number of students surely has to be one of the ways, because you have to have those children in the classroom, and the number of students usually will mandate the size of facilities that you need. But there's
no perfect formula, is there?
We'd sure be open to a different way of doing that.
Yeah.
I think it's not so much the number of children, but the amount of money that you get for each pupil in the classroom. I think that needs to be adjusted.
Part of the talk that's going around, at least in Lansing, and everything they talk about at the Capitol often affects public education, but they're talking about year-round classes. And in a way, there could be some advantages, but also it would make your job a whole lot tougher, because facilities would have to be open all the time, wouldn't they?
They would. I don't know if it would be that much tougher. That, like I said, they'd have to be open. I don't know how much more they'd have to use, like the air conditioning or the lunch program, those type of things. So,
well, other school districts seem to make money on some summer school programs, especially if they get compensated in some way. That would be something that you'd really have to grow into, wouldn't it?
It is. Yeah, we would. There's definitely a need for it. I know that often the administration says, and the teachers will say that it takes quite a bit of time to get the students back up to speed after they've had 3 months of vacation. So to have an opportunity to teach them through those 3 months and keep them continually learning, there's a lot of advantages to that.
Yeah, and maybe some excitement too. I have to throw this one at you. What about snow days? It's winter. Everybody's talking about the system of snow days because it's been a rough winter.
It has been. Matter of fact, we had a snow day today, and that meant that Mrs. King was home and had the day at home. And we talked to our son in California, and he says, asked his mom what she was doing home today, and she said, well, we got 5 to 7 inches of snow last night, so we have another snow day. And his comment was Mom's going to be going to school until somewhere around the 1st of July. So,
because really that's the system we have. If you're over allotted snow days, you'll likely have to add those at the end of the school year.
You have to make them up. That's correct. Yeah. And so we're currently working with our teachers' unions to determine what is the best way for us to make up those days. And it looks like the best way that's going to be, we'll say, doesn't cause a lot of conflict for the community and teachers and interrupt a number of the students' lives is just to begin to communicate to the students and the parents that we're going to have to go some extra days at the end of the year.
I would imagine you cannot win in calling a snow day because, parents have plans or, kids have an activity, and any decision you make is going to be questioned. It's hard to really make that stick, but you got to think about safety first.
We always do, and that is the win-win for this. Our administration gets out. They have a number of different ways to determine the condition of the roads and the weather and what the forecast is for the later the day. And I think we've done a very good job of, like I said, looking at the safety of the students first and calling a snow day when we need to.
Yeah, and there are some things you can't control, and the weather is one of them, and the timing and all of that. And the superintendents, I know, cooperate and talk to each other and make that tough call, but it is a hard call, isn't it?
It is, but again, when you put the safety of the students first, it's what needs to be done, and that's always been the right decision.
Yeah, and in some way there is a cost. I mean, obviously there's a cost to a lot of things. Transportation. I mean, you have to make sure that it's been so cold. We've had, sometimes it's hard to make sure that all the buses are running and in good shape, let alone get out and transfer kids in cold weather and get them to school. So there's a lot more than, to the general public than just having it cold or kind of snowy, isn't there?
There is, and like I said, we take all of that into account, and I think the administration has done a great job of calling those snow days when it's been necessary.
Yeah. So, what's the go-forward strategy on the board? You had talked about marketing and trying to retain students. The bigger issue is that for many years in the state, all districts have lost students. The demographics of the state have just decreased when you think of school-aged kids. So you're kind of in a tough situation, aren't you?
We are. I think for us the key will be that to continue to offer the latest technology, make it available to our students. I think the key will be to the college preparation classes that we have, and make those and continue to expand those and make those available to our students so that they can take those classes early and reduce their college education cost as much as they can, and then also provide as many of the technical programs as we can, because there are some kids that are going to need to learn some technical skills that may not be college bound.
So when you think of technology, how does a school board member ever win? Because technology's changing. We're ahead of the game in Charlotte with iPads and other things that you've made investments in, but the technology is always changing. It's a tough thing to chase, isn't it?
It is, and that's a tough thing to chase in in our personal lives, in our occupations, and even in the school system. But I believe it's a important path for us to go down, because we become just more reliant upon technology all the time. And so it's good to get that technology in the hands of our students as young as we can.
And sometimes those students are teaching us.
They are. Yeah, they are. We've learned a lot from them.
And you mentioned advanced placement. How important do you think accommodating those kids who really want to excel is in a school district?
I think it's critical. I think it's very important. There's a lot of our parents and our students that, as I mentioned, they want to take those programs as early as they can, because they can take them at a reduced cost. And when they graduate from high school and enter into college, they've already have had exposure to what the expectations are for college students. It's critical that we continue to provide those programs.
Yeah, and so, Gary, as a school board member, what's your message to parents in the school district? Do you want them to be more involved or engaged? Can we get more parents involved in their kids' education?
We always can. And again, speaking from we'll say, a husband that has a wife that is teaching in the school system, I think she would agree with me and say that having parents involved in their children's education is really a key to the success of those kids.
Yeah. And when you say that, that means that they have to encourage the kids at home, they have to create a culture of learning both at home and encourage kids to actively participate in schools and then support them.
Yeah, they have to be involved with what the children are learning in the classroom. They have to be involved with making sure that they get their homework done and they do a good quality job. And then if they're in a position that they can't help the students, their student or their child, they need to do what they can to find ways to help them to get to complete their good education outside of the classroom, so that they can do well on the different assessments and tests. And
sure. But Gary, I would imagine there are some things that any parent could do. So what would you ask? I mean, at least parents to be involved in teacher-parent conferences and conversations about what's going on, because I would imagine there's, no matter what you do, there'll always be a few parents who aren't involved.
I think that's true. I guess it's just a matter of, a teacher has only so much time during the day to teach, and if the children are really going to be successful, that education in school, in the classroom, has to be supplemented by the parents if the kids are really going to succeed and make it in this competitive world.
And I would imagine if you're married to a teacher, you know the work doesn't stop for a teacher when they leave school, do you?
No, it doesn't. As I mentioned, Mrs. King had a snow day today, but she was home grading papers and and doing a number of things to stay caught up in her classroom.
What do you think a school board member does to support the teaching staff? I think, with your involvement in human relations and the committee work and the teaching staff, the quality of teachers that you have, is there anything else that you talk about or things that you can do to support those teachers?
I think one of the main things that we want to do is to create a culture in the classroom that the teachers can feel comfortable there teaching. They can focus on teaching the students, and they don't need to be concerned about budget or canceling programs, those type of things. They do a lot of testing and assessments and those things. We just want to be there to create a culture that tells them, we understand it's a difficult job, and we understand what you do day in and day out in the classroom, and we just want to be a support to that.
Yeah, and you've always got to do assessments to make a judgment about how students are progressing, and tests, everybody understands it. But there's a big debate about whether or not we test too much.
Yeah, there is, and I don't know that I have an official opinion on that, but on the outside looking in, it does look like we test an awful lot, and And again, that's time that we've lost in order to teach the students in the classroom.
Well, Gary, tell us from a school board member perspective, just so that the public knows, what do the next couple months look like? Because I don't think people think about what the decision-making process is for a school board.
The next couple of months, mostly will be continue to work on the budget. Our superintendent will begin to start some negotiations with our teachers and the teachers' contract for the next year. We want to, again, as I mentioned, we want to expand our Charlotte Performing Arts Center and the programs and the activities that we offer there. And we always have we'll say a concern for the aquatic center.
Sure.
And we want to make sure that that's successful.
Well, and that's a great asset that has to be used.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, anything else you want to add for the public before we close?
No, I guess just for the students, just, remember who you are and what you represent.
Yeah, great. Well, Gary, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the service that the school board members contribute. And we'll be talking more in the next few months. I'm Bob Colt, and we'll continue our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools.